Like I said, Hard Talk starts now with host Farid Ali. Standing by for Farid to join me now. We have special guests all lined up. Seen my good buddy Darren Shepherd on the system right now. So we're standing by it for Farid to join us and get things rolling. I understand Darren has a mega project coming up at the Naprima Bowl in San Fernando. So we're going to hear all about that when Farid joins me. Darren, how are you good? Everything's good?
My brother, always a pleasure.
Always a
And,
pleasure.
and after God, yes, everything is good.
Before Farid comes up, tell me what's up with Fontclair? How's Fontclair doing? I mean, I know it's the mid-year vacation. They call it summer, Papa. I stick to the mid-year thing.
Boy, Fontclair is on a trajectory that is unbelievable.
Yeah,
And for this vacation period, just like last year, we have our free summer classes with various schools.
right.
16 schools in all we're involved in. And the kids come free of charge. We have young people, young apprentice tutors and arrangers who tutor free of charge from 9 a.m. till 7 a.m. Every day for the vacation period. We have activities, and it all culminates in the Fontclair Youth Steel Pan Festival, which this year is happening on September 27th, 28th, and 29th at Naprima Bowl, which is the cultural soul of San Fernando. Whether they like it or not, that's my hope.
Yes, I hear you. Well, let's see Farid is here. Farid, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, David. It's good to hear your voice. Darren, it's always a pleasure to see you, I tell you,
man.
We associate you with San Fernando. Without you, nothing much happening in South.
I ain't going so far up, partner. You're giving more trouble than I'm already in.
Sometimes when I'm bored, I say, rather than going Port of Spain to Lime, better I go south and see what's happening. But the first thing I do is to see what happened with Fontclair and what happened with Darren Shepherd, because if anything happened, that'll be happening through one of you all, the band or yourself.
Yeah, well, we're doing the work, and the work is not Panorama only. So we intend to keep busy. We have Fontclair, under the Fontclair family umbrella. As I was saying earlier, we have 16 schools, and there's always something happening in one of those schools that we're involved in. Apart from that, we have Fusion Steel, which is my personal group, which currently is the South Central regional champion back. And then I have my own individual project. So we're always busy. Fontclair has, over the last few years, developed a bar, services, and food preparation team that actually works for events within the Fontclair family and outside of the family. So it's all about enterprise.
Well, I always say the most significant thing is succession planning also. Building a product shouldn't be built around an individual, and you have certainly been building products and building institutions out of the band. So at least if you decide one day to migrate,
which could be soon. Which could be soon.
You don't like people migrating with the ideas and then they replicate in another country what they were doing here, and what the seeds they plant in Trinidad dies. So at least if you put people in place to carry on after you when you decide to take a rest, that nothing falls by the wayside.
Well, I want to be the one to decide when I take a rest. I don't want my body rest me. So I have that in mind all the time. And a lot of people might not remember, but I left Trinidad at around 19 years old. So I spent my early adult life in Canada, where I would like to think that I made significant contributions to Pan, because I was one of the founders of the Panorama competition in Panorama. And I was one of the founding members of two steel orchestras, Jesse Ketchum Steel Pan Vibrations, and New Dimension Steel Orchestra, which is a band that I gave the name to. So there was significant contribution there, and I can look back and see that both bands are still functioning. The panorama is happening under a different umbrella. So I'm hoping that I can replicate that in Trinidad and Tobago. In Fontle, as I said earlier, we have over a dozen young tutors. We have a cadre of young arrangers. We started some theory classes, and those kids did their grade 1 exams recently under the tutelage of Miss Bernadette Roberts. And out of the 6 of them, 1 topped with 95, 2 got 94, 2 got 93, and 1 got 92. So we're now going to replicate that in our junior group, where we're going to pull 6 players, and we have a wonderful music teacher who used to work with us via Marbella North Secondary. She's going to come in and work with some of our juniors for them to get their grades as well. So it's a rounded approach, it's a holistic approach we're trying to develop. And out of that should become the next leaders, arrangers, managers at Fontle.
So tell us something about the event on the 25th of August. It's Sheppy the Concert 3.0, the trilogy. Tell us what was the mind behind the creation of that particular event, because I know this year should be the 3rd edition.
Correct. Coming out of COVID, I wanted to kind of re-establish myself as a solo artist, because I spent a lot of time rebuilding Fontle and re-establishing Fusion Steel, which we relaunched a couple months ago with a great success, I must say. But I played at a particular level in North America, and regardless of what you do, I'm a performer first. So that yearning, that need, that want to interact with musicians at a particular level and demonstrate your craft never left me. So coming out of COVID, I did the first one. We had Shema Andrews, Bonnet Bickford, Alicia Jagasa, and Mauricia Kagan. That was a spectacular show. And last year we did it again with our all-male cast: John Thomas, Francis Prime, Mr. Donawa on the violin, and the Centelaire brothers. Fantastic show again. And this year, I'm going back to the Queens. So we have my good friend Chantal Estelle, my long-standing colleague Lady Adana, Stacey Sobers, and one of the best voices coming out of the Southland, Mr. Turon Roberts, now Nicholas. And this promises to be a great show as well. And I'm backed by a team of fantastic musicians. In this context, they're known as the Darren Shepherd Project, but they are the #1 backup band for all artists outside of soca in Trinidad and Tobago right now, led by Mr. Emile Fortune, with a bunch of musicians who, some of them started their jazz experience with me many years ago. And my neighbor and good friend, percussion aficionado, Mr. Tamba Gwindi.
Yeah.
So it's a packed, tight show. And this year, we're focusing on the music of Stevie Wonder for the first half of the show. Last year, we did George Benson. And the first year, we did music that would have influenced me over the years. So you had a little bit of everything in that first year. So this year is a trilogy. Next year, we're taking a different spin with the show. I was moved to, and I'm saying this for the first time publicly, I was moved to do a show where I give thanks to the Lord God Almighty for all his blessings, whether musical, family-wise, health-wise. So after we wind up this show next year, we're going to give praise to the Lord God Almighty for all that he has done.
Great. Now, just for the listening public out there, the show is carded for the 25th of August. It's to be held at the Naparima Bowl starting at 6 p.m.
Correct.
What is the estimated time of the show? How long is the program?
It's a tight 3-hour show, and during the intermission, you're going to be entertained by my group, Fusion Steel. So we keeping the show tight. It's a Sunday. We want people out of there by 9:30 for the latest, so you can get home and get yourself organized for work the next day.
Where are the tickets available? For those who are listening, the tickets are $250. But if it is you purchase early and you get an early bird ticket, it's $200.
Correct. So early bird tickets are exclusively available at Fontclair Enterprises Lotto Center and Gift Shop, which is at the Panyard. And we did that simply because we want to make sure that the family has access to tickets. So all our parents at the various schools, our teachers, or the members of the band and the various units, as well as the general public, you can call 610-8852. That's 610-8852 and reserve your early bird tickets. We collected the general tickets just a couple of hours ago, and those are going to be available at Naparima Bowl's box office, at Valini's Drugs, and at WAC, WACK 90.1 FM, Coffee Street in San Fernando. But you can still call 610-8852 to reserve yours, and payment arrangements could be made. And then I am the resident delivery man for who needs to get the tickets delivered.
Okay. You're sharing your number, you're making your personal number available to the public?
Oh, the whole world are my number, man. 377-3185. That is no longer a personal phone about 10, 15 years now.
So, just to round things off, the listening public, we have Sheppy the concert, 25th of August. It's featuring Lady Adana, Stacey Sobers, Chantel Esdell, Turon Nicholas. The tickets are available at $200 early bird, and it's $250 thereafter. You can get the ticket. The show will be at Naparima Bowl, San Fernando, and tickets are available at the ticket office at Naparima Bowl, Valini's Drugs, and what's the other one?
WACK, WACK 90.1 FM. So let me just take the opportunity to say, if you'd permit me, that the name Stacey Sobers is a name to remember. She's very known, very prolific in the Calypso arena. But her work in Queen of the Road, that production about the life of Calypso Rose, has brought rave reviews. She's one of the hottest actors / singers coming out of Trinidad and Tobago right about now. And a lot of people don't know the jazzy side of Stacey. And boy, this girl could sing. Every single lady on this show is spectacular in their own right. Chantal is one of the most prolific jazz keyboardists in the Caribbean, but she sings as well. A lot of people don't know that. It's going to be a phenomenal show. Everybody is top notch. So, yeah, get those tickets. Get those tickets quick. Don't get left out.
I wish you all the best, my brother.
And more significantly, you'll be featuring Stevie Wonder's music for the first time.
Yeah. So, for those of that era who remembers the album Songs from the Key of Life, you're going to get a number of tracks coming from that album. Stevie is just phenomenal.
Okay. So, Darren, I want to thank you for making yourself available. What I would do in a successive program, I would bring you back so we can do some follow-up work in the build-up.
Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks for your time and thanks for the good work that you've been doing in San Fernando.
Thank you, Farid.
Gone unnoticed.
And to my brother David, have a blessed one, man.
Okay, you too, my brother. All the best to you.
Thanks again. We'll chat again, Darren. Good afternoon, Dr. Khan. It's good to see you.
Yeah, Harry, same here. How things?
Well, it seems that you're wearing shrubs, if I have the word
Yeah,
correctly.
I just came back home.
Okay. It's good to see you. You're looking well. You're looking
Thanks.
well.
Appreciate.
You know, the reason why I brought you here is you're the best person to chat with us in terms of the dialogue that is in the public space. Everybody is concerned about the dengue outbreak. Um, what is your view? Do we have an outbreak, or is it an exaggeration, or are we just having a precautionary, um, you know, conversation generally in the
Okay.
public space?
Dengue itself is an endemic virus in tropical climates,
Mhm.
especially Trinidad and Tobago. It means to say dengue is here all the time, it's here. But however, sometimes there is a spike in dengue infections and also a spike in a dengue type of illness called dengue hemorrhagic fever, which is it has a very high mortality, which means to say people can die easily from it. Now, every 3 to 4 years, the endemic part of dengue overturns itself and becomes the dengue hemorrhagic fever.
Yeah.
And I think that is where we are right now. There is that 4 year gap, and the dengue hemorrhagic fever is showing its head because there have been two incidents of dengue death. And as a result of that, you know that it's just the first start of the upward curve, and you may expect more and more hemorrhagic mortality.
Dr. Khan, before you continue, could you say or state the symptoms that people should well,
Dengue symptoms
yeah.
are like normal viruses, which is abdominal pain, stuffy nose, vomiting, etc. But in the most important part of the symptoms is why they call it breakbone fever. Breakbone fever, you feel your muscles are breaking. It's extremely tired and also very painful. And you end up also with severe pain in the back of your eyes called retroorbital pain. Those are pathognomic or significant of dengue. But usually you have the general viral illness. The breakbone pain means to say that you feel that somebody is taking something and beating you very badly on your back and large muscles. And if you do have nosebleeds or gum bleeding, it means to say that your platelets have dropped to such an extent that there's no clotting and you end up bleeding. So that is a very significant symptom and sign really, where you must go at once to a public institution to check your platelets because you may need platelet transfusions to prevent death from bleeding.
Tell me something to expand on that. Some people they are confused with a normal fever as that with a of dengue. How can it differentiate?
The only way you could differentiate it is the severe pain in your back, as well as your limbs and the pain behind your eyes. That is how you basically can distinguish between a dengue type pain, and sometimes dengue gives you a rash throughout your body, what they call a pit, sort of a petechial papular rash.
Yes. No, normally people would put their hands around on your necks and to check your temperature and stuff. Is seeing that dengue is a sort of inward fever? Would you feel that if
You
once?
will feel some extent, but not as much as some of the other viruses that
Yeah.
give you a very high spike. You
Okay.
may get just a normal sort of high grade hotness.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
What can be done to households, meaning the man on the everyday persons in households, what can be done to assist in the fight against any evolution of this outbreak?
Okay,
I know that the usual things they tell you to clean up all about, make sure you don't have any still water anywhere, make sure that there's no receptacles to contain still water where mosquitoes could breed. But in your experience, what extra can be done? Because most people clean up.
no, no, cleanup is different to being specific. You have to be specific. You could tell somebody to clean up. That don't mean to say sweep the yard and sweep the place and whatever. You have to identify any areas of stagnant water. It could be in plant pots, in the saucer of plant pots, in certain plants that collect water in the leaves. It could be in the guttering of houses, any old can or any old tin, anywhere that you could have stagnant water is where you have to decant it. And sometimes they say use chloride, which is chlorine, etc., to kill the larva. All dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya, Zika is spread by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. When the female mosquito bites you, it can spread the virus in a person's body and transmit it from person to person. But they have to go through the larva stage before they become an adult mosquito after the eggs are laid. Now you have to kill the larva at that stage and then fog the area from to kill the adult mosquito. So it has a double prong approach, larvicidal and fogging. However, if people keep their surroundings water stagnant free, the chances of you allowing the mosquito to breed is very low. However, during the dry season, the mosquito the mosquito has eggs. Sorry about that. The mosquito has eggs, and when it gets the water, when the water hits it during the rainy season, the eggs germinate and form the larvae, pupae, etc. You have to scrub with chlorine and soap, etc., any of your utensils that could harbor these eggs. So it's basically knowing the life cycle of the mosquito from larvae to pupa to eggs to larvae to pupa to mosquito and fighting at all angles.
What about the type of water? Should it be clean water, muddy water?
Any water that is stagnant could be clean, muddy, whatever it is, they will breathe there.
Okay, okay. Because I was told one time that dengue mosquitoes do not breed in muddy waters and stuff.
They could breathe in any water, because the mud settles at the bottom.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Once the water is stagnant, could be muddy, could be anything else, it will breathe there.
Okay, Farid.
Is there anything that the regional corporation should be doing in communities? I know that we are cleaning our homes, the man on the street. We are
I
ensuring that there's no settled water everywhere.
Right.
But those government drains, those huge drains up the main road, those things are clogged most of the year.
Now the
If
thing
running repairs aren't done there, we're in trouble.
I remember in El Socorro South, when the dengue infestation started and the mosquito infestation, what we found was during the day, a lot of the mosquitoes were breeding under the culvert in the stagnant water.
Yeah.
And at night, they came out in their droves and, and as they say, bit and infected many people. So we had to start spraying and killing under the culvert, under the bridges. If you just spray on top during the day or late evening, you're only going to get some of the mosquitoes. You have to put the larvicidal pellets, etc., in the water. And you asked me what the regional corporation could do. They could hire more temporary workers around this time and let them go house to house, drain to drain, empty lot to empty lot, looking to see what is happening. I also remember when I was in Barataria, there were a lot of cars up on the roads, in empty lots, in people's places. and those cars were dumped cars, and they were breeding ground for serious mosquito infestation.
Wow. But, like what I did is in front of my office on the main road there, I opened those manholes and power wash in some way on my own.
What you could also do is throw larvicidal pellets if you get some into the area.
Where can larvicidal pellets be found for the
But
listening part?
I'm looking around that the chemical people supposed to have that. But I went on online and I was able to find some. I'm also going to buy a defogger, which is one of those handheld defoggers for my house, and people can borrow it if they so desire. Because you have to take this thing seriously for your own self protection.
What
If you wait on the government to do it, it's going to be sporadic, and the mosquitoes will breed in between that period.
all right. When I look at the newsprint, I'm reading here, and this is from today, Monday, the 8th of July, 2024, an article by Kamari Rodriguez. The rubric is mosquito mayhem, and it spells that the Ministry of Health advised to prevent dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases, and they highlighted, they bullet pointed a few areas. They indicated that remain vigilant. Extra precautions should be taken for vulnerable groups such as elderly, pregnant women, and children to safeguard them from mosquito-borne diseases. What sort of risk, if pregnant women become infected, what sort of risk they carry?
I don't think there's any extra risk than the normal person will carry, because they talk about immunosuppression. But this is basically a disease of a virus that blocks platelets, and you don't even know which one of the people will have platelet dysfunction. So I think everyone has to be assessed and treated. Everyone is susceptible, not just pregnant women, elderly, and young people, and immunocompromised. They may be a little more compromised, but not that great. I would say the Ministry of Health should basically spruce up the insect vector control system and deploy them outwards. When I was minister, I tried to do what they call genetically modified mosquitoes. So using that to decrease the mosquito population using sterile male mosquitoes, so the females could not lay eggs or breed properly. And that is what I was trying to do because of the Zika and dengue crisis.
Wow. I'm also seeing here that it is said that keeping your surroundings clean protects you and your family from mosquito-borne diseases such as dengue, Zika, and
Chikungunya
chikungunya. So,
and yellow fever. They all spread by the same mosquito.
so what may have started off as dengue could evolve into the others, or is it that it's like a multi-sectoral attack by all these mosquitoes? They can bring
it's
anything.
specific viruses. Dengue virus is different from all the others, from chikungunya, from Zika, from everybody else. But the transmission is by the same vector. So one has to basically attack the vector, which is the Aedes aegypti mosquito, and its cycle.
If I may ask a question, what is the difference between the effect of dengue and the effect of the other two?
The other two do not attack your platelets and decrease the platelet volume, so they don't come across with bleeding. The Zika virus, on the other hand, causes in pregnant women microcephaly of the baby's head, which is, remember, you have the small headed babies and intrauterine growth retardation. The chikungunya has joint pains, bad joint pains that stay with you. Well, yellow fever is another killer, but you have to have a yellow fever source, such as monkeys, etc., to spread it. So each one has their own negative in its own way. But dengue is the one that when it spikes with the dengue hemorrhagic fever can kill you easily because of the platelet dysfunction. You could bleed to death from your kidneys, your eyes, wherever, your mouth, and wherever you can bleed from, you can bleed.
Wow. When I look at some of the statistics, the World Health Organization stated that as of April 30th, 2024, more than 7.6 million dengue cases have been reported in 2024, including 3.4 million confirmed cases, over 16,000 severe cases, and over 3,000 deaths. If today we are demonstrating, if somebody is feeling ill out there and demonstrating the symptoms, what sort of treatment they can administer on themselves in the interim, meaning to combat?
The number one treatment is do not use aspirin and aspirin type drugs because you could force yourself to have antiplatelet activity and die. That's the number one thing you must remember. When you have your fever, no aspirin, no ibuprofen, none of the end-stage drugs such as Celebrex, Celicox, Acoxy, and those drugs. You have to hold back on those drugs. You can take the Tylenol, the Panadols, the paracetamol, that group of amino acetophen. Those are safe drugs to use for your fever. However, if you figure you have dengue and you have any problem, and you could go to the hospitals and get a blood test for your platelets to see what is the level of platelets. If you are bleeding nose, bleeding gums, etc., you have to go urgently to the public institution or the private institution and check your platelets in your blood.
What about the availability of these drugs that you've mentioned, these prescription drugs? Is it, in your
No,
understanding?
those are not prescription drugs. Those are normal drugs.
Okay.
Over the counter drugs.
They're over the counter. We can get that everywhere. Are you aware that it's available?
Yes, it's available, but as I'm saying, be very careful that when you're going, ask for the non-aspirin derivative drugs. You must never use aspirin type drugs in this case.
Dr. Khan, I went to the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and on entering, there was at the receptionist, there was a nurse there asking people to take the flu vaccine. Is that a fight against problems like dengue?
No, it's not. It's just the normal flu. This is the coronavirus, the H flu virus, etc. It has nothing to do with dengue, etc.
Okay.
When I look at some of the data, the Minister of Health is saying, and I'm quoting here from another article in the newspaper, Monday, the 8th of July, 24, the rubric feature to the Yalsing. It indicates here in one of the penultimate paragraphs, the Yalsing further noted that Pan American Health Organization said Latin America and the Caribbean had reported 9.3 million cases of dengue so far this year, 2024, twice the number of cases reported in 2023. PAHO stated that in 2024 so far, countries in Latin America and the Caribbean have reported more than 9,500 cases of severe dengue and just over 4,500 deaths. This situation seems to be certainly isn't peculiar to Trinidad and Tobago. It seems to be a worldwide problem.
It's a tropical problem where the Aedes aegypti mosquito are present. Anywhere in the tropics, you will get dengue. In different parts of the world, you will get dengue once you have the Aedes aegypti mosquito and there's somebody who has the dengue virus. However, you must understand that the dengue virus can mutate to become the dengue hemorrhagic fever. And by doing that, that's where the deaths occur as the dengue hemorrhagic fever.
Well, we must cover something. I know you're a medical doctor, but everybody in Trinidad believes that they have a home remedy. Are you in any way one of those doctors who recognize that there is a home treatment that one can use, or that is something you discourage and you encourage the public to have your plate levels checked and so on?
There is a home remedy that you could use, right? That is what you could use at home, such as cleaning up your yard, get rid of stagnant water, checking your plants, checking your gutterings. That is a home remedy for everybody to do because the mosquito could fly from house to house, the distance, and get infected in one household and spread it to another household. So that is the only home remedy that you could use, cleaning up your yard, your places that have any stagnant water. People who have cars and old cars in their yard and scrap yards, etc., they have to be looked at seriously because water could collect anywhere there. And some people have swimming pools that are not moving, and if water is moving, and anything such as that, you have to be certain you have no lava inside. Sometimes they say you could throw oil on top of the water, and that will prevent the lava from breathing.
There has been a number of communities in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly in the Penal Siparia area, Penal Debe Siparia area, where they've been speaking. Some of the chairmen of the regional bodies were talking about, more needs to be done. Are you of the view, in terms of the topography in Trinidad and Tobago, that there should be some sort of national effort to ensure that these plots that have been left abandoned should be the cutting and the pruning of these areas should be something adopted by the state, or is it by the corporation? For instance, let me use an example. Where I live in the Tunapuna area, I could point to a number of lots that have been overgrown through the years, and you just see it's getting particularly worse. Is it something that the regional corporation should be looking after these lots that are not cared for by the owners? Because I doubt this is just
The regional corporation, and I looked into it, has the legislation backing it in the Municipal Corporation Act, where they could go in and clean the empty plots of land and charge it to the land and the owners. And if they don't pay up based on what it is, you could sell the land to recover the money that you used to clean it. That is the way things have to start generating and going in that direction. Because if you just leave it on the people and they have nothing to lose, they're going to leave it just like that. But the regional corporation, together with the public health inspector, can go into an empty plot of land, clean it, and then charge it to the people involved in the land or the land itself. And then they can make a lien on the land if they don't pay it and sell it for the money that they owe.
I appreciate that information, and just for the sake of enlightening the public, maybe you can lend your voice to this in what way you can. It's stated here that, and I'm taking this again from the newspaper, the Triad Express, the 8th of July, again, 2024. It says that if breeding grounds for mosquitoes are found on your premises, this can result in a fine of $3,500 or imprisonment for 6 months under Regulation 27 of the Yellow Fever Regulations 1979. Are you of the view that the legislation assists? I would imagine in your previous position as former Minister of Health, you would have had to oversee some of this, the legislative measures that are put in place. Do you think that there should be fresh legislation, new legislation that is more current and contemporary to cover other areas in terms of putting the public at a greater level of responsibility? Or do you think that this is enough in terms of enforcement from the other side, from the supply side, to ensure that the public stays in line?
You could use that legislation, the yellow fever legislation. However, you need to do the other legislation to make it tighter and easy to use. Remember during COVID, when they wanted to make people mask up and do all kind of things, which was unnecessary in my view. They went and the chief medical officer went and just carte blanche put people in the mask, 6 feet distances, charge people for not wearing masks, etc. So they have shown that they can do it rapidly if necessary. This is necessary to have legislation or action because if you don't make people responsible for what it is, they're not going to do it. So it is a good idea if you can get people to now. You have to do it with reason. You can't find somebody with a bucket of water and a lava because lava goes all the time. And next thing you know, somebody cleans up the yard, a public health inspector goes in and sees a bucket of water and say, look, you have lava there, right? And charge them 3,005. Can it be done daily? Can it be done weekly? Can it be done monthly? Can it be, these are things that the legislation does not take into effect. You have to make proper legislation to say, because if I would charge and I cleaned up my land, I would go to court and say, show me the lava that what you found in my yard, in my water. So it makes it impossible. So you have to do it in such a manner to make it easy to deal with the problem. But that is not the answer. The answer is putting more staff on the road and also giving out to the households the samples of the larvicidal samples to throw in the stagnant water and giving the temporary insect vector control personnel the ability to go into people's yards and look for areas that are susceptible and put in larvicidal pellets and fogs and do the fogs. You need more personnel and you need a different thought pattern, such as the possibility of the genetic modified mosquito.
I was not about to ask you that. You said you did the genetic modification of these male mosquitoes,
Yes,
so that
it's in the ministry and it's under a company called Oxitec from London. They are the ones who are pioneering genetically modified mosquito male sterility. And it's a bit expensive, but that is more expensive.
I hear you. I really thought the Ministry of Health would have taken up on that uh, process or modification.
It's not a one shot kill. You have to have different areas. And I'll tell you something. A lot of the larvae and a lot of the mosquitoes hide under the culvert in during the day and they
Oh,
come out at night.
yeah.
So what I'm saying to you, you have to hit them in the day as well as the night, not just in the evenings.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Thanks.
When we look at the number of deaths that we've had so far, it seems like not many, but we can't measure the effect in terms of mortality. We have to measure the effect in terms of the stress that persons find themselves in when they've become infected. You've mentioned the prescription medication. Well, you've mentioned what can be done in terms of one's personal position, clean up around the yard and the homes and so on. Clearly, there's a deficiency in terms of what the regional corporations are doing in terms of cleaning up those culverts on the street level. I haven't been seeing in my community much of that being done, if any at all.
Exactly.
Those drains, there's an issue with the sidewalk drains. They're always clogged. They're always full of soot and debris. When rain falls and the water isn't flowing into the drains. That in itself is a problem. You create stagnant pools of water on the roadside, and it's a natural clog. It's up to households now to actually clean these drains, the business community to clean those drains themselves. You can't sit back and ask the regional corporation to do something that they haven't been doing all year.
Everyone has to take responsibility, not just the business community. Everyone. Clean the drain in front of your house and make sure that debris don't go down into the drain and people sweep it into the drain. I was driving along Aripita Avenue 2 days ago and I saw a Chinese man picking up rubbish from the drain before it went inside. He was there with a bag and he was picking up all the rubbish, old bottle, um, um, plastic bottles, all kind of things. He was in front and he was cleaning up in front of his drain. People should be more civic minded like that.
I think part of the civic mindedness and all should spill into persons should be careful about what rubbish they throw out of their vehicles
Well,
and
yes,
what they.
Trinidad is a very nasty place. People are extremely nasty. When you go to different beaches, when you go to the different, you go down the islands and Scotland Bay, you go to Turtle Bay, you go wherever you go to the beaches, it stink. You look at the place, bottles, the plastic bottle is a very, very heavy breeding ground for mosquitoes. But for some reason, nobody wants to bring the Beverage Container Bill Act to make sure that people are fined for using these things and not disposing it properly. You need to get items and areas of or so things like bottles, etc., that are decomposed and mash up so they don't collect water. Imagine a lot of empty plastic bottles all over the place. People throwing it where they want, on the road, on the ground, anyway. It comes down in a river, and inside that has water, and the mosquitoes fly in, breed, and fly back out. So you understand how we have to be our own worst enemy.
We've seen where what about the wetlands area? All those lagoons that we have here.
But they have moving water. In the lagoon, they are moving water. There are tilapia, there are fishes that eat the larvae. In the swamp, there are fishes that eat the larvae. So it's an ecosystem in its own right. You have to start growing tilapia and growing fishes and throw them into the swamp in those areas so they could eat the larvae, which they do.
In your understanding, is that a national drive? Meaning, do we have a policy in place to grow the tilapia and
No,
have that?
no. We had one years ago. If you remember where the bamboo was,
Yeah.
they were growing tilapia there exactly for that, and then releasing them into the swamp areas to eat mosquitoes, etc. But that I don't see that happening again at all.
All right. But Dr. Khan, we want to thank you for making yourself available this afternoon. I know you spent half an hour of your time with us. We
Right.
appreciate the information that you've shared, and we hope that the listening public would, bring that to fruition in their daily lives and in the way they carry themselves.
My take-home message is please look around your surroundings, look, clean it, and call the corporation, the insect vector, if you have larvae and you need pellets. Call them.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you again.
thanks a lot.
Enjoy evening.
Thank you,
Take care.
Doctor.
Thanks for calling me.
Yeah.
Mr. Maraj, Mr. Gautam Maraj, you could put on your camera and your volume. Thank you so much for making yourself available to us. We have this evening the chairman of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation, Mr. Gautam Maraj. Mr. Maraj, I hope you've been having a good day. Thank you for the warmth that you've shared with us in terms of making yourself available. Not every chairman has extended themselves the way that you have. So you're ahead of the rest already. Tell us something. What are some of the challenges that the persons falling within your corporation, the citizenry, the populace down there in Penal Debe have been? What are some of the challenges they've been facing in terms of the dengue outbreak? How has it been impacting on your people there?
Sure. One of the challenges that our council has discerned is in the absence of a well-communicated plan, people begin to panic. People begin to take things in their own hands. Okay, so we are getting a rushed call from the public for any treatment. The treatment that we are currently doing is the dynafogging. The plan with regards to what persons should be doing and so on, helping them to understand a bit of some of the symptoms and so on they will be experiencing is a bit right now not present. That plan that I speak of is a plan that should be holistic. For example, we are doing dynafogging. That is one element only in an integrated management control program for insect vector. We are aware of that there has been the treatment, the perifocal operations before. There's the treatment with the mineral oils for the eggs and for the larvae and all of that, and the upfront monitoring. So this is why I am seeing a need for a much more holistic approach from the Ministry of Health, and a collaborative approach too, because while some of those competencies and skills with the insect vector control unit, we are aware of formally. I am aware of, and the council is aware of, challenges that the St. Patrick division is having. We are within St. Patrick and Victoria with regards to mobility, vehicles, and all of that. So that is just to set the context, and we can go in deeper a bit on where we are. I mean, it is aware that we are doing the diner fogging. We can speak a bit about the drain cleaning and so on, which in your previous conversation I heard a bit of, so I can add a bit there as we go along. But I'll hand back over to you.
What are some of the measures that you have put in place, and what have you all been doing in terms of the drain cleaning because one of the complaints is the public is being encouraged to clean their yards, make sure there's no receptacles that are containing dead water there where mosquitoes can go and begin that process of and mosquitoes and larvae and so on. The public may be doing that, but the complaint is that the government drains, as we see. You know, there's an expression, government drain, right? The drains belong to all of us, but it's the drains on the curbs of the road that the corporation is responsible for cleaning. That is not something that households can come out and take to the street and remove manholes and start power washing down there. What has the corporation in your community been doing to ensure that on that side of the coin, the work is being done?
Okay, quickly, because you use the word government-owned drains, I think it is important for me to do a bit on quickly, and then I'll get to what we are doing in terms of your question specifically. Ownership, I just want to make this clear. It's very important for it to be understood. Yes. Asset ownership of rivers, channels, side road drains, all have different asset owners. For example, in our region, the large rivers are owned by the Ministry of Works. That's the one you see like crossing main roads and all of that. And another set of water channels is owned by Ministry of Agriculture. Why is that important? It may be easy to say, okay, well then one can just clean all, you know, what's the big deal? The PDRC is collaborating and cleaning whatever is outside of our jurisdiction. But I'll give you the importance of understanding asset ownership. Apart from a legal standpoint of it's not your asset, the other important aspect is the national budgetary process allocates funding to the various asset owners. That would be Ministry of Works, Ministry of Agriculture, and the regional corporation. And therefore, it is really for that purpose for them to take care of those water channels. So that is an important thing to understand. But notwithstanding that, the corporation is out there, and we have at our local level have established some amount of collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Works to be able to get some work done. And in the Penal-Debe region, we have, for those who have been driving around that region and so on, we'll see we have cleaned a significant amount of rivers. We have put up some on social media and so on. We are looking for the chokehold areas and so on and trying to debottleneck and all of that. The manpower, and I'll get back to that, a challenge with that, as you are on the topic of challenges. On the manpower side, the cleaning of the sooty drains and so on, as you mentioned it earlier on, we have redirected all of our construction strength and put all our teams into drain cleaning at this point in time. Getting back now to the troublesome areas, as you were speaking of culverts. Culverts are a bad actor, I call them, right? They're troublesome ones because they're wrong. They have over the years accumulated silt and so on, and they have sunken also because of heavy traffic and all of that. They are in some of the key places, like the end of the highway to Debe, where it meets that road there where the highway itself ends and joins a main road. There's a blockage there. How do you deal with that? That is an engineering solution. Now it comes back now to money. So you'll understand why people say the corporation asking for money. In the budgetary process under DP, development projects, notwithstanding that main roads also are Ministry of Works drains. So this particular example also is a Ministry of Works on which we are contacting and hope to do. We have done upstream of that between the Parvati Guilds and the market. But getting to the point, The point remains, I'm just using it as a case example, notwithstanding its Ministry of Works, where there are examples of that, and there are a lot of examples of that, we need funding, and the DP funding, which is development project funding, is $21 million has been allocated via the national budget, but has not been received as yet. Not part of it. None of it has been received. And this is the 10th month of the fiscal year, the financial year. So what it means is you'll be struggling to issue those tenders and so on. We'll be seeking to get permission to do some type of work up front, which we are doing, so that if you get it in the last hour, we can still award and be able to save the day. But really and truly, in a proper functioning, proactive environment, a structured environment, it means these things which would have been submitted at the beginning of the financial year and would have been approved through the national budget, if you have had your funding, it means that you would have done some work. And in our case, you would have done work in the dry season. So you would have been well prepared for now. And these are actual cases, cases in Church Street, cases in Mohes Road, cases in Rock Road, real cases like Dilmore Matrice in Rock Road, Sunken Culvert again. And this is the funding that would do that type of work. So that answers one of the questions as to why we are where we are in terms of this drainage thing that you have identified, which, yes, residents are where there are some areas that are flooded repeatedly, annually, and really cannot be resolved. And that is where we are hoping to do that type of work. I have mentioned that in the area of the manual cleaning, we have done a really aggressive drive in terms of cleaning. We are doing that type of work. We have had some, what we may say, inherited traditional challenges, and we have done some new things. We have put in place now dedicated teams. So your verges on your recreation grounds and your cemeteries now have a dedicated team. It's a change we made, and it's working really well. And your roads have a dedicated team, so that you wouldn't have people switching and moving and so on and have to acclimatize often. What we have done also is silting. This is, any member of the public can tell you that putting silt on the side of the road when you clean, that silt sometimes get washed down back. And you may have seen it. You sounded as you have some practical observations. Yeah. We have now put a dedicated cleanup team, a truck and trailer team, that when you clean from the road, and obviously it wouldn't get to 100% immediately, but this is a change council has made, that must be tossed into a trailer immediately. So that gets off. That's on the simpler level things I'm sharing. At the major engineering type, we are awaiting that money.
Have you all been able to partner with the stakeholders in the community? I would imagine the business community aspect of the community in meeting with the challenges in terms of making, I would imagine, trucks available. If it is they allow some finance, they lend support by way of money, because it's a community effort to ensure that everything is done.
That's right. In Pinal-Debe, actually, before last flooding season, and that's when I was not in office, you would have seen me on the media under the Good Samaritan banner, where we moved the children from the homes to the schools to write the exams, and that was really because of those business stakeholders' effort. But I will give some more on the business community. Yes, they are contributing, but in terms of your term stakeholders, the biggest stakeholder that I am seeking support for is from the Ministry of Health and the Insect Vector Control Division, for many reasons. Insect vector control consists of PHIs 3. That is where the resident competency lies. Insect vector management is a specialized area. It is like OSH and like food science and so on. And that unit has to come forward, and we have asked and so on in a collaborative way. I do not believe that the impetus or the trigger has to be at the low level, because the workers, we had a joint meeting on Tuesday through our public health committee meeting. I think it has to happen at a very high level, that, hey, we are going into a command center type arrangement. That is what needs to be said. And we, the corporation, is offering our space, offering our workers, offering our vehicles. Number one simple but big challenge, St. Patrick Division, and I am speaking it factually here, is without vehicular support to be able to move their 40 to 50 workers and their chemicals around. So this is where stakeholder engagement and stakeholder involvement will give the biggest return. Now also the monitoring, we are focusing, because we are where we are, on Give me a spray, spray. As I said, 800 streets, PDRC has ramped up, put on 3 other teams. We have 4 teams now, morning and evening, doing 1,000 households per day. But it really is not the only solution. Monitoring, that pre-monitoring, you know, there were people who go wrong, and there's staff for that. The structure allows for those things. Monitor the population, monitor what is happening, and do treatments in line with that. The aspect of reporting, the surveillance, the National Surveillance Unit, the CMOH's office and the IBCD's office receive and only act on information from the National Surveillance Unit. But you have a council that has 10 councils, 10 districts that is interacting every day with the members of the community and can bring live, real data. So there must be at the ministerial level some amount of game changing to say that, can we take that data from the corporations? Can we send back data to them so that they can adjust their treatment? Can we join our treatment plan? Any international or best practice methodology will tell you that it has to be a combined effort. So we really need to get out of our corners. And the PDRC, as chairman, I'm saying on behalf of the PDRC, we are ready. We are ready and waiting. I have made it clear to all quarters. We have written to the CMO to ask for data, to say, let us have this data transfer clear and transparent so we can both know where to aim or to have our targets and to be able to bring relief to the person, to the people. Somewhere in the program, there was the contribution, I think it was from you, based on the traumas and so on, right? The traumatic state and the panic and all of that. And that is something that is real. The Ministry of Health also is constructed to have that mental health capability. And we are seeing a number of persons who are in need of that. In fact, when people call, you know, they lay in a complaint, they will say, you will wait until my wife's dead and then you'll come, that kind of thing. So if we have these teams, and this is a very simple thing, you know, this is nothing new. This is if we get together, if tomorrow we receive a call, the minister okays, IBCD, National Surveillance Unit, you all go have a joint meeting at the PDRC or whichever corporation and so on, come up with something, give us a plan. We'll have a plan, we can communicate it, people will be at ease and all that. This will, I'm getting something very important because the session prior to me was based on medical science and so on, is that this will now help people understand the purple leaf and the vervain and all of that they are taking on their own to be able to combat this thing in a sort of, you know, one-man style survival type of technique. They will be now be encouraged to go to the medical health centers. For example, if you say medical health center in the parts in these areas, people will think of a day loss in their income because they know they'll meet lines, they will meet other little hurdles. They may not go. But if we say we are setting up a hot operation where you come in, you suspect you have had dengue, you can be seen by this panel of doctors, or we separate in terms of now there's another detriment. If the dengue loading rises, which it is, it means that the other types of care, medical care will now be shortchanged. So this is what I am thinking. This is what our council is sharing at its meetings. This is what we want to see. And I think it will bring some ease and all of that in terms of stakeholder. Now, answering your question, yes, Penal DB is a place where the business community comes out. I gave you an example. We have seen just recently in one of the traces in DB, the business people bought chemicals, they bought mist blowers and so on, and they went out, they gave to the residents, they went out and they started to do some spraying and that kind of thing. Whilst I admire it, I say that if we have a certified treatment plan which incorporates all stakeholders, there may be a bit of toe in for, it should mention and have and take care of and cater for residents and volunteerism and so on, and we would then be sure that what they are doing is contributing to the entire attack plan, instead of maybe in some cases working counter. For example, we are aware of resilience, building resistance and so on by the insects. These are real science behind it. The science needs to be incorporated in a practical day-to-day treatment plan, and the corporation is the best place for that to be disseminated. I make the call for that collaboration from stakeholders, to use your term, stakeholders being Ministry of Health, CMOH's office, Insect Vector Control Division.
Have you been speaking with the MP for your area?
Of course, yes, we are in close collaboration. Go ahead, sorry.
So you all are on the same page in terms of approaching and preparing your community and the region and as a whole there?
Yes, yes. The MPC Para has signaled really the seriousness of this in terms of the children being home and you know that they will be susceptible to it, and the business community idea also was bolstered and ignited from another MP from the MP Urupuch East, and we have close collaboration on what is happening. Yes.
What about the health centers in your community? Have you been liaising with the health centers to ensure that they have the required prescription drugs and so on that may be made available to the public if it comes to that?
I have liaised. We had a formal meeting on Tuesday through one of the doctors that is the liaison with that arrangement, and that is where I just got that point on the I made that point on the health centers being ready, because I asked that question as to because traditionally, and whether perceived or real, so we are not here to assess in this conversation the health centers. People see it as a place where, you know, it is very, it will take a while, you may not get the medicine and all of that. And I asked about the preparedness of it. I can't speak for it. I will have to visit myself and see, and maybe even if I visit, I would not be sure that they have the medication and that sort of thing. But my contribution is, my recommendation was that set up that hotline system that I spoke of, meaning that have that specific arrangement for possible dengue cases. Let people be encouraged that, look, you can come to the health centers and you will be treated and all of that kind of thing. And it will not be a deterrent as it is right now. What I can answer is it's still a deterrent where people feel, and I made mention of why some people may be attempting to treat themselves, and it may really cause danger in the long run in terms of time of really getting correct. And then also, if you make those centers available, and if you by extension you do the education also on outreach, it means that a lot of people will be educated. I heard the doctor before speaking of the hemorrhagic condition and so on. The death in one of the deaths that we are aware of has been related to a hemorrhagic condition. It possibly could mean that people are on aspirin, they are on blood thinning agents and medication and so on. And really, because of the delay, in going quickly to a medical facility, they do not diagnose. And that is why I made that point. What I'm saying, all is associated in this complete treatment plan. That is why I made the point on the fact of persons being aware. We spoke of the all stakeholder in the data aspect, that if it is that the CMOH's office and the IVCD office is only acting on the national surveillance data, it means they may be pigeonholed and not be able to really give a complete plan, because we are seeing differently. We are seeing a disparity. I checked the Ministry of Health website before I came. I think I got a figure a couple of days back to around 29 nationally, but we are seeing in one trace, a trace which carries, let's say, about 15 or 20 households, we are seeing 11 and 12 cases in that. So there's definitely need for that will assist in that aspect of what you're speaking, specifically healthcare and medical care, at least at the preventative stage.
I want to thank you for making yourself available today, Mr. Mirage. You've been quite comprehensive. What we will do is we'll keep in touch with you and perhaps get an update on the good work that you're doing. I could only hope that the same sort of work is going on in the other corporations. I will try to reach out to them and find out if it is they are on the same level that you are on in terms of the work that you've been doing there. So thank you so much for sharing on the ground. Thanks again.
Thanks. Good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Israel. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Good afternoon, and it's B. Israel, but Dr. Faith is fine.
Okay, thank you. We invited you here this afternoon basically because we've been hearing so much as to what has been going on the ground level in Trinidad, and of course we'd like a taste of Tobago. Tell us, what are some of the challenges that have been that you are aware of in your capacity as Secretary of the Division of Health, Wellness and Social protection. What are some of the challenges that you've been faced with in Tobago, and some of the information that is coming to you?
Certainly. Well, I think I would actually like to reframe the question and answer it a little differently. I've been listening to your previous commentators, and I actually sat here and I thought about how blessed we are in Tobago to have a system that is way more integrated than what is happening in Trinidad. So let me take a little bit of time to explain how that functions. So even though the Ministry of Health is responsible for health and health policy in Trinidad and Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly, through the Tobago House of Assembly Act, is responsible for several items under the fifth schedule of the THA Act, one of those items being health care. So the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, which is the division that I am responsible for, actually is the entity that does what the Ministry of Health does in Trinidad on the island of Tobago. And so we function as an elevated local government type of entity, but we also are the ones that manage the Tobago Regional Health Authority directly. Now, the good thing about the structure of the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection is that it actually includes the Office of the County Medical Officer of Health, and it includes the Public Health Inspectorate. And of course, we provide the policy that the Tobago Regional Health Authority implements as it provides the medical services. So many of the challenges that I've heard Mr. Maraj, for example, speak about in terms of having people talk to each other and interact with each other and share data and share information, we are blessed to not have that challenge in Tobago because we all function in essence under the same singular banner, and we are able to communicate very freely, and we are able to manage the situation very freely. So at the beginning of this season of dengue, for want of a better term, the Office of the County Medical Officer of Health sent out a notice to the Tobago Regional Health Authority saying, hi, we are seeing a rise in dengue worldwide. We have seen dengue cases popping up in Trinidad. This is the case definition of dengue. So you're looking for people with fever, with vomiting, with the different symptoms, signs and symptoms of dengue. If you see that popping up in our hospital or health centers, definitely take the samples, send it to the public health lab, which is the Trinidad Public Health Lab. When we get the results, we will then activate the public health response for a positive case, which is what we've had to do because we've only had one confirmed positive case of dengue on the island for this season, and that happened this weekend when we got the report from the public health lab this weekend. So the collaboration that is required, I think, is actually we're in a way better position in Tobago because the management center is all in a singular space, and we work very closely with each other to ensure that everything works the way it should.
Some of the challenges that we've been facing in Trinidad is to get the public more, to create a greater sense of awareness and a greater sense of personal responsibility. What are the challenges you all are facing? Personnel, the Tobagonian on the ground. Have you been able to sufficiently educate and share information and create a greater sense of awareness and have persons acting more in a more responsible manner? What are some of those challenges you're dealing with? I mean, not just dealing with, Tobago is Tobago. It's from Crown Point to Charlottesville.
Certainly. And I think we are also blessed with having a public health department that has actually been doing quite a bit of the background work. So a couple months ago, for example, we had a schools mosquito prevention competition where we actually had the primary schools and secondary schools and even some of the preschools participate in learning about the areas around the house that can breed mosquitoes. And so we've been doing that kind of education at all levels. Now, granted, we certainly need to do some more. We certainly are seeing individuals who are not necessarily following the directions and are not following the guidelines. But I think the vast majority of Tobagonians are hearing the messages. And with the case that popped up over the weekend, for example, they are becoming more in tune. So I got a call this morning from a village council representative who indicated that that village council was taking it upon themselves to do a community cleanup in their village. And they were asking for support from the public health department just to get like trucks and so forth to come and pick up the stuff after they have done their cleanup. And that is the kind of response that we have been getting. Of course, our vector control, so our public health personnel have also been going around knocking on people's doors, going into people's properties, looking around for areas that can be breeding ground, and having those kinds of even one-on-one conversations in the families, in their yards, in their homes, to help them to move away from some of the practices that cause mosquitoes to be bred. So I think that we have a way to go. We still have to do some more cleaning and to get more people on board. But for the most part, I think that we are responsible individuals. And I actually would like to commend the Tobago population for that.
I don't think Tobago has some of the challenges that we have here in Trinidad. And let me put it this way. Tobago is a lot cleaner than Trinidad. When you're in Tobago, it's a different world. Sometimes when you're in Trinidad, you're seeing the place, you can see the difference in landscape. What have you all been doing in terms of the Charlottesville Speyside area? Is there a difference or disparity in terms of how people respond to the threat of dengue in, if I may put it this way, in the more suburban areas as opposed to Crown Point and the more central part of Scarborough?
I have not picked that up, probably because outside of probably the Crown Point area, almost all of Tobago still sees itself, even though we may not necessarily be, still sees itself as relatively rural and definitely residential. So outside of Crown Point, outside of Scarborough, where we actually live is seen as more residential, as more rural, and therefore we carry those philosophies with us as we go along our day-to-day activity. So I have not gotten any reports of seeing a big difference, for example, in how these areas function compared to other areas. Of course, the challenges that affect areas like Crown Point, because we have a larger volume of people who are there, a larger volume of people who are transient. So they literally just come in for the weekend, come for the lime, come for the fete, and then go back. We do have to manage that a little bit differently compared to the areas that are more residential, that are the typical village life kind of thing. But I am not seeing, it has not been reported to me that there's any big disparity in any of those areas thus far.
We're in the midst of now the season where we're into the Pan is More Beautiful festivals. I was checking on my phone just to make sure that I'm not misquoting. There are several Tobago bands: Metro Stars, Natural Mystic, Hope and Groovers, there's Dixieland, Alpha Pan Pioneers, NGC Steel Explosion, Cats and Jammers. How's that impacted on the steel band fraternity? The outbreak. Are they still practicing? Are you aware of it? Hasn't hindered in any way the preparations for the Pan is More Beautiful festival that's coming up?
No, no, it has not. And remember, we only have one of the hundreds of cases that are classified in Trinidad and Tobago. Only one confirmed case is from Tobago. Now we have, there are other individuals who have the symptoms of an infection, but when you realize those symptoms are, the headache, the body ache, the fever, the nausea, that kind of thing, those are symptoms of, practically almost everything. So that is why we need to do the testing to ensure that they are confirmed. But for now, we only have one confirmed case of dengue. So Tobago is not feeling the kind of pressure that we are feeling, that I envision that that our brothers and sisters are having in Trinidad. When we compare the numbers of cases in Trinidad versus in Tobago.
Well, I guess it's safe to say at this stage that preparations, even for the secondary schools football leagues, male and female, that's taking place as of September, it hasn't affected on those social the social part of life there. What about the tourist industry? I would imagine that when you get that information in the public space, that we have a dengue outbreak, how the tourists interpret that is a different scenario altogether. Have you all begun to get any feedback or any sort of information as to how you all intend to share that message out there that, though we're in an outbreak season, that it's under control and tourists shouldn't fear, holidaying, even for the Trinidadians that come on weekends?
Certainly. Well, the good thing is that in Tobago, we have actually been working very closely with CAFA, the Caribbean Public Health Association, and their health tourism program, where the tourism plants, so the hotels and bed and breakfast and those things, are actively engaged when it comes to health issues. And that is, of course, for as it relates to infections. COVID taught us several amazing lessons. And that also relates to food safety and water safety and so forth. So because we are already working very closely through CAFA to have a tourism health foundation where we quickly share information. The hotels also know, for example, that they can call our public health department, and we are there at the drop of a hat to provide information, to provide advice, to help them treat with whatever issue that they may have that is a health-related issue. I don't envision the single case that we have being a challenge at this point, again, because we already work so closely tourism and health to ensure that our tourism plans are as safe as possible. And because we are using that CAFA Health Tourism Health Foundation and the guidelines that were drafted for that, those are the things that we are rolling out. So I actually think that we are blessed to have survived COVID and to have learned many of the lessons that we did from COVID so that we can now implement them whenever there is any other kind of infection or any other kind of outbreak that may be happening on the island.
Like everything else, we have to think about money. Have you all been able to access the necessary funding to ensure that the infrastructure that you have in place and the institutional machinery is not in any way impacted?
So the Tobago House of Assembly is very used to the fact that we don't get enough money. We just read our budget for 2025 in the THA House, and the normal thing is we request a couple $2 billion, we get 2 billion, and then we have to make do. What most people don't recognize is that, so for example, when the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection gets its 700 or 800 million dollars, quite a bit of that actually goes to the Tobago Regional Health Authority to do what they do, and the rest of it stays with the division to do what we need to do. And because all of these entities are under one umbrella, we are able to share resources. We are able to work collaboratively. We are able to cut and contrive because that is what we need to do. So at this point, I think my mindset as Secretary for Health, Wellness and Social Protection, and all of the secretaries within the Tobago House of Assembly, led by our Chief Secretary, Farley Augustine, we have learned over the last 2.5 or so years that we really have to turn water into wine and turn stone into bread because we just have to use the monies that we have in the most effective and efficient manner. And that is what we have been doing in all of the divisions, including the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. So although we will always ask for more money, we will always require more money, we have figured out how to make what we have work, and that is what we have been pushing. That is why, for example, we have the strategy includes doing quite a bit of the preventative stuff. That is why it includes having our perifocal workers going around and doing the house inspections, because that is part of their daily function to ensure that we don't have to react to a huge outbreak. That is why, for example, when Ho and Kafra, and they had a training a couple weeks ago. They actually had the training as relates to insect vector resistance and so forth. That training actually happened in Tobago, and quite a number of our perifocal workers were part of that week-long training to ensure that we are prepared for things like this coming up. So yes, we always need more money. Yes, we are underfunded as every other entity, but we are figuring out how to make it work, because as an island, we simply have to do that or we will not survive.
Tell us something. How has your ministry, in collaboration, or is there a collaboration between your ministry and some of the stakeholders in Tobago, such as the business community, the churches, the NGOs, the hoteliers, those in entertainment? Have there been a multi-sectoral relationship where you interact, interface, share information in an effort to address the problem in a more holistic way?
Yes, there is. As a matter of fact, something that frequently happens is our the health education unit of the Office of the County Medical Officer of Health is always out, always in schools, in churches, in various other community groups, sharing this kind of information. That is a normal thing that we do. As a matter of fact, whenever the season pops up, whatever it is, they really just go dust out the presentations, ensure that they're up to date, ensure that we are, we're bright and up with the times, and we run with it because it's something that is done every year. It's a continual process. We have not had, well, at least not for dengue, we have not had any real direct interactions with the private businesses, for example, but we've done that for other activities. We've partnered with private businesses when it came around, carnival time, encouraging them to within their establishments, ensuring that they're practicing safety protocols, the washing of hands, all of those things that are necessary. So those kinds of interactions happen frequently. But as I said before, the single case of dengue that we have, the single confirmed case, we got that information literally last weekend. And so we have been doing proactive, preventative stuff since then. Since that case has come about, the public health individuals have gone in and followed the protocol, and the protocol includes going to the home of the individual, ensuring that the other family members are not exhibiting symptoms, actually spraying in the homes and in the homes close by, to ensure that whatever mosquitoes are around, that those are killed, and then we continue with the normal processes of the preventative stuff throughout the island, which is what we've been doing.
Have you all done any formal audits or informal audits, if I may put it that way, of whether the hospitals, the general hospital in Scarborough and the clinics and so on in the communities have ample supply of prescription drugs if things evolved to the point where there's a more drastic, radical outbreak and your citizenry need access to medication? Have you all done that to ensure that before anything presents itself, that you're ready?
So the challenge with medications in the public health system in Tobago is that we use the C40 mechanism. So we have to get it from the same source that all of the hospitals and health centers in Trinidad get it through C40. And it's important to note, though, that when we're talking about dengue, there aren't many actual medications for dengue specifically, but what we do is treat the symptoms that people may have. And that's why a part of the education that I've been doing is to identify for individuals or help individuals identify for themselves the difference between the mild symptoms that most people get for dengue and the severe symptoms that they definitely need to get to the health facilities with. Because what we do not want is a situation where everybody who has a headache and body ache shows up at a health facility, because we don't necessarily want to overwhelm the health facility for that. So we have been educating in terms of these are the common symptoms, these are the mild symptoms, the headache, the body ache, the nausea, the rash, the pain in the back of the eyes, and so forth. And if you have those symptoms and they are mild, then you can go ahead and use your paracetamols. You can go ahead and use your regular stuff, the Tylenol and the Panadol and so forth that you usually take for a viral infection, for the symptoms of a viral infected. But what we've been telling people is to ensure that you avoid pain relievers and anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin and ibuprofen and so forth that are blood thinners or that can promote bleeding. Because if you are one of those individuals with dengue who happen to have some of the more severe symptoms, some of the severe symptoms of dengue include bleeding. And that's why we've been telling the public that if you recognize that you have some of the more severe symptoms, the belly pain, the vomiting continually. So if you are vomiting more than 3-4 times in a day, if you have blood in your stool or blood coming out of your nose, or you have bleeding gums, it means that you are actually having bleeding happening. And therefore, you are the one who needs to get to our hospital, to get to our health centers, because you would need a little bit more care, managed care, than the person who has the simple, mild symptoms. And because we know that we are treating those things, so we are treating the bleeding, we are treating the pain, we are treating the whatever, I think we are in a decent position when it comes to having the drugs for those things. Yes, we continue to get stock out. Up to today, I got a message from a client, from a patient who is telling me we don't have a particular drug and we need to go and look into that and so forth. And generally on the island, we are looking into the option of going outside of the normal C40 route to get some of these drugs that seem to be more difficult to get. But as it relates to treating dengue specifically, I don't think that we have a challenge with the medications that we need to treat the symptoms that people are popping up with, or people would more likely pop up with on the island.
But clearly, public education drives and programs like this, where we address some of the supply side and the demand side narratives, helps. I think one of the things that we need to be mindful of, there might be a lot of elderly people who are very hesitant to visit medical institutions. They want to engage in home remedies, things that they would have heard and so on. So we tend to want to discourage that sort of thing, because you don't want a situation where the home remedy doesn't work, and then you have to head to the health center now where things are far gone. It's gone to the point where it's severe. Yeah. I would imagine that Tobagonians look after each other. So the persons who are listening out there, if you know that you have, elderly neighbors, that one should try and at least lend an eye, visit them, find out what's happening, see how they're progressing, just in case that they're being a little too cautious and want to self-treat and self-care.
Certainly, that is a critical point and a very, very, very important point. And yes, so we are really asking us to be your neighbor's keeper. It's the same message we used during when Beryl was passing last weekend or the weekend before. So, you are fine, but cast an eye on your neighbor, particularly if you know that your neighbor is a little older, may have a disability or some other vulnerability that would prevent them from being able to do the work, to respond in a particular way. So definitely, and that is why we are pushing it in terms of the difference between the mild symptoms that you may have and the water, mud, and flour kind of symptoms. And when you have the water, mud, and flour symptoms, those are the times that you need to call. You need to get to a health facility. The number that we encourage people to call in Tobago to get any kind of emergency care is 211. We have a call center that can route calls to the police, to the hospital, to the fire service, to our emergency management agency. So 211 is the number that we encourage people to call for any and everything on the island, and you could get service that way. But definitely, we also have a situation where, quite a number of our elderly patients, I guess it might be a cultural thing in Tobago too, where they love the idea. They actually look forward to going to the health clinics for their clinic days and so forth, because it's a way to socialize as well. So I am not too fearful about our elderly, at least not the women, staying home and self-medicating when they should be in the hospital or the health center, because they flood to the health facilities to Lyme in some instances.
I guess it's the same everywhere you go. Yeah? I have an elderly aunt who looks forward to clinic day. She made friends there, and she's looking forward to seeing those friends.
Certainly.
Tobago has been quite resilient. You mentioned Beryl earlier. You just had to face the threat of Beryl a week and a half ago, and before that it was the oil spill in Scarborough area. So Tobago has always been that sort of responsive sort of community where the challenges face Tobago, they deal with it and roll with the punches.
We absolutely have no choice, because we are on an island all by ourselves. You have to get up and you have to face whatever the challenge is, and you have to go back tomorrow and get up tomorrow and put on your big girl pants and your big boy pants and just do what you have to do. It's one of the things that our administration has been very, very proud that we've been able to withstand so many shocks. I mean, it's literally been one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. As a matter of fact, when I became Secretary for Health, Wellness and Social Protection, it was literally in the height of COVID, where we were having the largest volume of COVID deaths happening on the island. And we were able to withstand that and withstand everything else that's coming up. Let me just answer very quickly, because I saw someone in the comments asking for the symptoms. So the common symptoms of dengue are the mild symptoms that you get: a headache, body ache, pain behind the eye, nausea, vomiting, or a rash. Those are the common mild symptoms. But if you have the severe symptoms are belly pain, tenderness, vomiting at least 3 times within a day, bleeding from the nose or gum, blood in your vomit, blood in your stool, and extreme tiredness, for the person who was asking about the symptoms as relates to dengue. The one with the pain behind the eye, though, may be the most telling, because many of the other symptoms are general viral infection type of symptoms. But if you recognize you're getting that pain behind your eye, that is the one thing that is a little bit more on the dengue side than many other viral infections.
So your Trinidad neighbors, I know we are Twin Island state, but we Trinidadians love to run to Tobago when Thursday comes. And
we welcome you.
One of the concerns is everyone likes to take those little boat trips to No Man's Land, to Birds Island. We walk across the Pirates Bay. Those who lazy would want to take the boat. What are some of the efforts that are being made in those little niches there, in terms of, do you all have any special cleanup exercises there, or any special vigilance in those areas? Because I would imagine that piracy in a Trinidadian's mind might be an area a little off the beaten path. You all have cleanup exercises in that area where personnel go in there and look to see if there's anything in particular that they need to pay special attention to.
So our public health inspectors have actually been visiting quite a number of those, traditional tourist spots on the island, ensuring that they are safe. And safe in the eyes of public health means food, water, vector borne safety. So they have been doing that. We have also at the Tobago House of Assembly level been pulling together a couple teams to work through how we can develop those areas in a way that do not shift from their natural elements, but ensure that we are ensure that whoever visits remains as safe as possible. So ensuring that we have water and that we have toilet facilities and we have those things available. So those we are actually now working through a way to enhance what is available in those areas without shifting too much from their natural look, their natural beauty and that kind of thing, because we are conscious of those areas being important spots for our tourism product on the island.
Let's talk a little bit about enforcement, but allow me to couch that part of our discussion along these lines. I'm quoting here from the newspaper, the Trinidad Express, an article by Kamari Rodriguez. The Minister of Health stated, and I'm quoting here, Latin America and the Caribbean have reported 9.3 million cases of dengue so far this year, 2024. Twice the number of cases reported in 2023. FAO stated that in 2024, so far, countries in Latin America and the Caribbean have reported more than 9,500 cases of severe dengue and just over 4,500 deaths. So when we look at the regional figures, we've been quite fortunate, and Tobago have been quite fortunate that sort of narrative hasn't spelled and spiraled into any large number of deaths. I mean, as you said, there's only been one case reported in Tobago. We haven't had any reciprocation to the volume of deaths. When I look at the legislation that we have in place in Trinidad and Tobago, under the Regulation 27 of the Yellow Fever Regulations 1979, there's a clear indication that here that speaks to if breeding grounds for mosquitoes are found on your premises, meaning the civilian premises, this can result in a fine of $3,500 or imprisonment for 6 months. Let us say I'm in Bonaccord and I want to make a report because I'm seeing there's an abandoned lot somewhere that no one is particularly paying attention to. Who do I call? Do I make a report at the police station? What is the procedure that you all have in place to make reports based on observation, or if you have a delinquent neighbor who's simply taking everything for granted?
I actually had somebody who called me today to talk about a delinquent neighbor who's taking things for granted. So the approach that we have used in Tobago thus far has been one of trying to bring compliance versus being punitive, if I'm honest. And my public health inspectors would actually tell you that is the approach that they've been using for quite a lot of other things as well. But if you do need to make a call, the Department of Public Health, the number is 639-1433, or you could email public.health@gov.tt, those two entities, or you can do what the person did today, which is message me. A lot of people find my contacts online. I have never changed my telephone number, 494-8827, and that is published in newspapers and on my social media and so forth. So you could contact me via any of those and let me know what is the situation. It helps when you send a picture so that we have a sense of what we are coming to see and a proper location and that kind of thing, and we forward that immediately to the public health department, and they come and they do a nice polite visit, and we try our best to do it the positive way versus the punitive way for now.
Well, we live in an age of social media, and public education is important it's not only the use of mainstream media like we are engaging in today. Are there any special social media drives that you all have encouraged or you all are utilizing? Have you all been encouraging the schools to, do their own TikTok advertisements? Anything of that sort? Have you all put any incentives out there for persons to create greater public awareness, to increase public education? These sort of things help. I know Tobago sometimes tends to be ahead of Trinidad in some of these areas.
So we are actually pulling together an entire plan as it speaks now, specifically for this. But as I said before, our public health department has actually been interacting and having competitions and that kind of stuff. So, for example, last year, no, maybe it was early this year, I can't remember the time period, we actually worked with the preschools on the island to do a hand washing video. So all of these preschools were invited to come and do an actual hand washing video using, the same TikTok model kind of thing. And we judged those and they gave them prizes and so forth based on that. So that is a normal thing that we do. We are currently rolling out the areas pertaining to dengue right now. But those things that you've highlighted are normal things that we've been doing over the years. And it's just a matter of continuing it and continuing it and just shifting the focus as we go through the year.
I want to thank you so much for making yourself available, Madam Secretary. Thank you for your warmth and for your availability. Hopefully we can have another conversation with you again. It's 6 o'clock. We've spent 40 minutes with you. Time flies when we're having fun.
Certainly. Well, thank you so much for inviting me on. Certainly, I will make myself available as long as, it's an issue that we could chat about. Just reach out and I'll be here.
So enjoy the rest of the evening and thank you again for your time. To the listening public, we've been having a conversation with Dr. Faith B. Israel. Thank you so much for your time again. Enjoy your evening and be safe. Thank you. David, we were handing over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Israel. And thank you to the other guests we had on the program today for Hard Talk with host Farid Ali. Farid will be back next Wednesday for another edition of Hard Talk right here at Power 102 Digital.
Thank you, David. Enjoy your evening and be safe on your way home. Blessings to the public.